Dragons and Unicorns present Robin of Sherwood, Knights of the Apocalypse Cloaks. You'll need black fabric, gold fabric, bonding fabric, black and white thread, cutting board, chalk marking pens, fabric cutting scissors, Fisker's embroidery scissors, a sewing machine, pins, hand sewing needles, a steaming cloth, an iron, a metal ruler or yardstick, 1 metre in Europe, and tracing paper. For some projects the table just isn't big enough and occasionally I have to use the floor as a cutting board. I've already cut 4 pieces of the crepe backed satin to the length required for whomever's cloak I'm cutting and placed 2 of those lengths on the floor, selvage to selvage with the right sides together. I want to give the cloak the fullest effect I can, so I'm using the entire width of the material on all 4 panels. Because I've made so many cloaks over the years, I know the approximate angle needed for the hem, which I've cut with my large sharp scissors. I've cut a very wide neckline, measured the width for the shoulder seam, and used my yardstick to mark the cutting line from shoulder seam to the edge of the hem. Each cloak is made up of 2 front and 2 back panels. I'm making 5 cloaks with a very full pattern. I've taken the pieces to the cutting board and marked them using my chalk marker with the relevant person's name. Now, if you've already seen the video on how to do this bit with the gold sun symbols, please feel free to skip these next few photos. If not, I've taken a 12-inch square of fabric and cut a rough circle out of it. I put the picture of the sun symbol onto my computer screen, making it the 8 inches or 20.3 centimetres I wanted, and then traced around the top part of the shape. I folded that tracing in half and using a pair of embroidery scissors to get into the tight points, I cut the sun symbol and placed it on the tabard front to double check how it would look. I cut the squares of gold foil fabric I'd need and ironed the fabric bonding paper onto the back of it. I traced and cut each symbol until I had 3 of the large suns to go on the back of our cloaks and 3 smaller ones for the left side of the front of them. Now here's the gold side of the suns, and you can see how the angle you're viewing it from just changes the way the fabric reflects the light. I've used my clear ruler to place the sun symbol on the back of the cloak, having made sure that the back seam has been pressed open first. And using my steaming cloth between my iron and the fabric, I've put the symbols on the back and chest of each one. Each piece of the cloak has been overlocked to prevent fraying, as with everything I make, and I've sewed the 4 pieces together and put each cloak on the right person. I've gathered the neckline with basting stitches. Now, as you can see, the cloaks are too long on the sides, which I knew they would be, and will need trimming to the right length. In order to cut a hem to shape, you need to firstly make sure that the cloak is sitting correctly on the model, with the shoulder seams in the right place and the gathers evenly distributed around the neckline. You also need your model to be wearing no shoes, be very patient, stand with a straight back, very still, and look up all the time or your hem will be wobbly. It's not a good look. I usually start at the side seams and cut the hem so that it sits on the floor, as you can see here. Now this takes time and creates a choppy edge, but with practice and keeping the model turning clockwise in very tiny steps, a little at a time, the hem will be correct. You also need to keep checking that the shoulder seams and necklines gathering is still even before making your cuts. Here we have a picture of the basic hood. It's a very full fantasy shape cut from a 16-inch square. I've cut a quarter circle edge from the back top corner to create the shape. Each hood will be lined, so I've cut 4 pieces for each one. The edges have been overlocked and a straight stitch used to sew the two pieces together along the back seam only, as you can see here. This is a close-up of the curved back of the hood, and in order that it lies properly on the head, the corners need to have these notches cut into them. And although it takes time, each notch piece has been overlocked on both sides of the seam. This ensures the costume will last for years of wear and tear. I then cut all the excess thread ends off to neaten it up and press the seams so that they'll lie flat open. I've gathered one of the hoods to fit the neckline evenly and sewn it onto the body of the cloak. The seam has then been pressed up towards the hood, as I need to make sure these are hidden on the finished outfit. I've basted all the seams so they'll stay flat whilst working on the rest of the cloak. Putting the right sides together, I've sewn the second or lining hood to the first, created the hem by using my machine basting method and pressed the seam allowance on it in towards the top of the hood and tacked it in place. I've removed the machine basting stitches and laid the lining level with the hood seam, gathering where necessary to make it fit neatly into the neckline. And I've hand stitched the hood lining to the rest of the cloak using a whip stitch and black thread. Frequently people will stand on the hem of your costumes. It's just one of those things that you have to get used to. So for safety's sake, the cloaks were all fitted with inner hook and eye and outer decorative frogging fasteners. Nobody sees the inner hook and eye, but I use them as frogging knots can slip out quite easily if you catch your cloak on anything. But they do finish a cloak beautifully. And I really think the sun symbols look amazing. The Baphomet cloak took a lot of work with all the flame effects, as they had to be cut out individually, but it was worth every second of time it took. When this was moving, the flickering flame effect really worked. The back looked amazing when the Best Beloved walked in the room, particularly as these full cloaks really give that Scottish widow's swirl when you move. When you see the whole outfit put together, that's a really proud moment. But the finishing touch of the Flaming Horns helmet with its face mask really brought Baphomet's possession of de Monbom to life. And when you do that with a costume, those chills really do go up your spine. And hopefully of those who see the costumes too. We had the best reactions from the actors and the attendees at Hooded Man 3. And as a costume maker, that's what you put in all the work in for. The cloaks are finished, as are the outfits. To see the other videos in the Knights of the Apocalypse costume series, please subscribe to our channel and remember to like and share. Thanks for watching everyone. Blessings and light to you all. Big dragon and unicorn hugs.